Hey guys, and welcome back. This is a video that's going to cover a new shipyard that just released yesterday, and the topic is fuel mechanics, how it works today, and what's in store for the future. So basically, they had to post this in response or at the same time as the 100 series because of the unique air system, which is the adaptive intake refinery that's inside the 100 series. So basically, they have now kind of focused where they want the fuel system to go, the career of refueling, the gameplay of fuel. It's all coming down to, the game is starting to come along, get more focused, and we kind of see where things are going in the future. So first, the fuel mechanics in 3.1. All of our ships have a hydrogen fuel tank. This is just what's in game right now, and most have a quantum fuel tank. The snub fighters being the only exception. Uh, Ships thrusters consume fuel stored in the hydrogen fuel tank and then convert it into thrust with a small draw from the power plant. When in quantum travel, thrusters use the fuel contained in the quantum fuel tank. A common misconception is that fuel is only used during boost or afterburner. Actually, fuel was intended to be consumed during any use. And if y'all remember, a bug catchers, even when the ship was off, bug catchers, bug smashers, even when one of the ships was off, it was still continuously burning fuel. And it was a very, very small number, but that was a bug because, you turn your engines off and you don't use fuel. But when your engines are on, even if you're stationary, you're always consuming fuel. So you have to keep that in mind. Most ships have a fuel intake, again, snubs to be the exception, that generate fuel from the environment. Fuel should usually generate faster than what standard maneuvering burns while in space. Sustained maneuvers involving boost or afterburner, as well as use in the atmosphere, will consume a lot more fuel than can be generated at the same time. This is because you're using an afterburner, which is consuming a lot of fuel, and you're fighting gravity when you're in atmosphere. So this would deplete the fuel bar located on the HUD, which everybody sees it's above the throttle. That's usually up there above the throttle. It stays at 99 or 100 at most times because, of course, you're generating fuel through those intakes. Now, stopping these maneuvers will typically refill the fuel bar, although most ships need to be moving for the regeneration to occur. So again, you're got to be moving so you can be scooping the fuel. Is basically how it works. Hence, if a ship is left running while you land, you may return to discover it has less fuel in it. Um, if you run out of either type of fuel, the only way to refuel your ship is by visiting a cryo station or filing an insurance claim because you can't move the ship when you run out of fuel. So you have to go to an ASOP terminal, which is the terminal where you go and actually request a ship and file an insurance claim if you run out of fuel. Regular fuel. If you could quantum while you're in space to a cryo station and make it, you can get fuel from there and purchase it. So this is the future of the fuel cycle. This is how they want things to go. There are various gases in space. If you have a fuel intake, you're going to be able to scoop those gases through the intake. If you have a refinery, you're going to be able to convert those gases into plasma, and then that plasma is going to be stored in a fuel tank. It's not going to be just a hydrogen fuel tank, it's going to be a fuel tank. And I think they kind of forgot to block that out because right now it's just a hydrogen fuel tank in game, but in the future it's going to be a fuel tank. It goes through the power plant, gets converted or agitated, and then the thrusters use it as propulsion. So this is kind of the step. And I kind of just went through it like that. I should have just read it from here. But the fuel intake scoop natural gases. To get the most gas into your ship, seek out areas of concentrated gas. That's going to be part of the gameplay. Using your fuel intakes in regular space may scoop limited quantities of gas or none at all. That's because space is a vacuum. There's probably not going to be much gas there unless it's in some kind of nebula or concentration of gas. These gases are then converted into plasma. Fuel intakes will do a basic conversion on a limited range of gas types. If you have a refinery, you will have more conversion options. Is basically where it comes down to. Like certain ships, like this air system on the 100 series, will have a built-in refinery in the vehicle, so it can convert more types of gases into fuel. So, and other ships that don't have that won't be able to. They'll be limited. Converted plasma is stored in the fuel tank, previously called the hydrogen fuel tank. There we go. These tanks can only store one type of plasma at a time. That's going to be important because let's say you're running low on, per se, hydrogen, and there's an abundant amount of a different type of gas near you. So you need to start thinking, hey, do I convert a different kind of gas? Let's purge this fuel tank because we have a crap load of gas that we can be storing and converting right here. So that's going to be a gameplay thing, and that's going to be kind of fun and add challenge to the game. When thrust is needed, the plasma pumps through the power plant and is converted or agitated into energized plasma. The energized plasma is funneled into thrusters. The thrust is produced and the ship moves appropriately. Okay, that's how the future of fuel system is going to work. So hydrogen is the most abundant element in space, the most common. Um, all ships can use hydrogen to power their thrusters, but again, it's not the only type of gas that can be converted. Some ships can harvest and convert varying types of gas that, when refined, provide additional benefits, such as increased efficiency or reduced emissions, which makes sense. Maybe some gas burns hotter than others for infrared and stuff like that. Um, so they're bringing a lot more like science and variety into the game, which Star Citizen always promised to do, like that next level of gameplay, which is more skill, more tactical choices matter. You can only store one type of plasma in each fuel tank, so pick wisely. If you wish to change types, you must purge that tank before refilling, which is not recommended in deep space. Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. Unless you have no choice, which that's usually me getting in bad situations. But anyway, let's continue. Refineries are key to converting other gases into a usable fuel. While fuel intakes do a passable conversion job, refineries take it to the next level. They can be found on a wide range of ships like the 100 series, the Freelancer Der, and on the high end, the Starfarer, which, if you saw the 100 series video, we kind of talked about that briefly. As part of the refining gameplay, you can select what type of fuel to scoop and where it will end up, provided you have a ship with multiple fuel tanks, like the Starfarer, all those little circular pods that are underneath that are fuel tanks. And you could probably collect and store separate, and that refinery is probably huge and has a whole bunch of options, and it could probably process multiple gases at the same time. And I say gas like, not like gasoline, but vapor, what you're collecting. You would need to monitor the situation, as gas concentrations will vary by location and even within the same location. So here's kind of an explanation of it. Let's say a gas cloud in space is a mixture of ammonia, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Ammonia, which will be the most efficient, dense fuel, you may be able to be tempted to scoop it. But it's only 9% of the gas composition, whereas nitrogen is 40%. This means you will have to take. This means it will take you just over 4 times as long to get the same amount of ammonia plasma as nitrogen plasma. On the other hand, ammonium plasma is a higher grade and sells for more. So you got to kind of make choices of what you want to do, or the benefits of that type of gas, or the profit of converting that type of gas. So it's gonna bring a whole realm of different aspects of gameplay to the game finally. Um, and then finally, quantum fuel will remain as is. It will only be consumed during quantum travel and can only be refilled at des, uh, designated stations like Cryastro, truck stops and stuff like that. So this is kind of explaining how things are going to change in the future with the next patches, and they're going to slowly start focusing the gameplay in the direction they kind of want. So again, this is an idea of where they want to go. None of this is set in stone. Things could change with anything with Star Citizen, uh, including, I don't know if I mentioned it in the other video, size 1 weapons. Um, you know, everybody's mad that, oh, size 1 weapons are pretty much nothing. Well, they got ideas to change that and to make them more relevant. So let's get back to this. The major change players will notice is that ships will no longer have the ability to regenerate or scoop fuel by default. This part of the fuel design was delayed until we can implement support features to ensure a positive player experience. So basically what they're saying is they didn't cut our fuel out because it's hard to make money in the economy as it is right now. So they kind of just gave us free fuel so we could test it and play and have a decent experience. Um, these prerequisite features are a way to call for help and a way to get fuel at any location. Okay, so that's kind of where the service beacons come in, so you can call for help. And if they implement starfarers to actually carry fuel, then a starfarer can go to anywhere you are in the Stanton system as it is and replace your fuel. So they have to get that in game for it basically to come into effect. So the first issue was solved, the introduction of service beacons, and that's exactly what we're saying. And the latter will be solved when the Starfarer gains refueling. That's exactly what we're saying. Um, other ships capable of carrying fuel, the Aegis Vulcan. Oh, that's the new ship that can repair, salvage, and refuel and rearm on the fly. So that needs to come in before this can take effect. So it's going to be like stages you're going to see start focusing this way. So as of right now, ships either have a fuel intake or they do not one, or have the option to equip one. To determine which ships fell into a category, we looked at their intended career roles, career and roles, as detailed in the Shipyard series. Which another thing, guys, I'll show you how to get to all the shipyards, to all the Q&As. You basically go to comlinks and there's a little filters, and just click on engineering, and all the shipyard stuff will pop up. And there's even series, and it's a filter. You can click on it and go straight to the Shipyard series to read about all the stuff in the past and right now. So basically, here's what they've came up with. Combat short range. The in-game equivalent to a carrier-based ship that we've seen, like the Gladius and Hornet, are on the Idris. These ships will not come with or nor have the ability to equip fuel intakes. So no fuel intakes, Gladius, Hornet, any small ships that are kind of combat focused and short range. Which that kind of bothers me a little bit, because one of the selling points of the Hornet were the 2 giant fuel intakes. Yeah, right here. 2 giant fuel intakes, and then you go down to the specs and you see there's fuel intakes right there on the Hornet. So it's kind of that's kind of running into the problem of they kind of sold the Hornet as a ship that could be combat and kind of long medium range because of the limited uh, regeneration of fuel. And the Gladius, we know, does not have fuel intakes. It's very sleek. It's not meant for long range and heavy fighting and stuff like that. It's a carrier-based ship. So I have a problem with that, but that's fine. So let's get back to this. The combat long-range ships, that's going to be your Vanguard, your Retaliator, other ships like that they are meant for long-term being out in space and doing damage. So those ships will have intakes as the role requires them to. Yeah, because they're long-range ships. So, all right. The next one is exploration. These ships have fuel intakes by default. So, you know, they it's an exploration ship. It's meant to be out there in the deep space, away from the nearest refueling location. They're going to have intakes by default. So industrial and transportation, typically these ships will have intakes by default, as again they're meant for long-term transportation, cargo, stuff like that. Okay, so support ships, naturally the Starfarer and most other ships in this career will retain them. They'll have fuel intakes because they're expected to execute long distance and extended duration missions. So yes for support. Competition, these ships will vary depending on their type. Some ships, like the Razor, feature technology that allows them to refuel, whereas others, like the M50, deal with the issue of differently by having larger fuel tanks. So, racing ships, you're not going to be out in deep space. You're going to be in a competition racing around a racetrack. So you're just going to have to deal with either regaining your fuel or put larger tanks to have more capacity for boost and afterburner. So some ship families, such as the Aurora and the 300 series, have variants that come with intake by default, while the rest of the series can equip one if you procure it separately or transfer it from another ship. Furthermore, just because you have a ship does not just because a ship does not have a fuel intake doesn't mean it can't operate in deep space. There are no hard restrictions to place in place to prevent it. Um, you would just need to consider your actions more carefully. Yeah, plan your flight trips and stuff like that. It's basically what it's getting down to: more gameplay, more challenge. You could leave enough fuel to return, call for a refuel, or make your journey to a one-way trip, which that's definitely not the case. We don't want to do that. No one-way trips. We always want to come back. So how does the 100 series air system benefit from this? Okay, so this is getting down to why the starter ship in the 100 series and that air system is in place. The 100 series benefits from having a fuel intake and refinery, allowing it to process more types of gas than other ships in their class. Uh, in addition, the default equipped fuel intake is a higher grade, a B versus than a C. So C obviously is what they're saying is like a standard type of equipment grade. Is going to be like your stock stuff your ship comes with is going to be C. The 100 series also has a bespoke refinery that can harvest a wider variety of gases than comparable systems at that price point. So it's basically the best bang for the buck as far as refinery inside of a ship that can travel pretty much everywhere. You know, doesn't have to worry about fuel when you have it. So out of all the starter ships, the 100 series is intended to be the most fuel efficient. Thanks to the air system, it achieves this goal through a combination of its naturally efficient thrusters, a higher quality fuel intake, and a wider range of gases it can refill from the refinery. So that's pretty much it. Um, Again, this is just like an idea. This is where they're going. This is the transition they're going to be making. Some of the decisions I don't personally agree with, just because the Hornet has giant freaking intakes on the side of it. So we'll have to see where they go with this. But I'm just keeping you informed of the changes. Anytime you see a shipyard, uh, it's a crazy. I say it's a crazy. It's a major change in the fundamentals of the game. So we can go right here to Comlink, and I'll show you how to get to all the shipyards. And you just go to engineering and search. And then you can also go to concept Q&As, all types. Uh, it's basically how it goes. And here's a shipyard. Here's the Q&As. Um, all this stuff that's coming up. So, and we can find another shipyard right here. Variants and modules, cargo capacity. Anytime something major changes, they put it as a shipyard in an engineering post. So ordnance changes, hardpoint changes, turret changes. So if you ever need to navigate the website is a lot easier to navigate than before. But yeah, definitely thank you for watching. I hope it clarified a little bit of stuff for you and gave you an idea of where the fuel system is going to go in the future. So thanks a lot. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate it. Have a good one.